Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Dariusz of Brew Co., and I have with me Dr. Göhler, of the chairman of BESTMALZ. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. We just kind of wanted to
Sure.
learn a little bit more about the malting process, and you seemed like a great person to talk to about it. Um, so really quickly, who are you? What's your background looking like, and how did you get into malting?
Okay, I'm one of the family members. My grandfather, he started the company long time ago. So this has been a family business for 100 years. And now I'm the third generation. So my father worked for the company for 40 years, and then my older brother worked for the company for 20 years, and now I came in 2014. So my background is more on the financial side.
Hmm.
So even though I grew up with the malting, but um, I studied economics and then did my PhD on brewing and malting, but rather from the financial side. And then when we handed over from my brother to me in 2014, we started to focus on some new things, some other things. Also, we fine-tuned a little bit our systems, and so this is some of the changes that happened since 2014. I'm also I bought the shares from most of the family members, so we had a few a small group of owners around 2014, and we reduced this group. So now we're only three: my father, my younger brother, and myself. But I'm the only one who's in the business.
Gotcha.
So we have in our company we have around 100 people now. Three sites. One is in Heidelberg, which is the administration mostly. And then we have two production sites, and I'm here in one of them. Beautiful sunshine, great weather to have a beer, very warm, much too warm.
Nice. Where are those other two production sites? Are they in Germany as well, or are they elsewhere in Europe?
No, the production is all in Germany. So we have one which is near Frankfurt, which is one of the production sites, which is logistically very good. And then we have a second production site, which is near, what is the place that you may know? It's not too far from Heidelberg. It's about 80 kilometers from Heidelberg. So we're all in the southwest of Germany.
Gotcha. Yeah, it does actually look really nice over there too. Right now we're pretty drab and dreary here in Chicago, so more stout weather, less lager weather, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
So, what is like a high-level explanation of the malting process? A lot of our viewers and readers are homebrewers, so they kind of have an idea about it, but I know that there's quite a bit of science that goes into it as well.
Yeah. I mean, there are two different ways to look at malting. The one side is that it's pretty much a very natural process, which is exactly what nature does. So you add water to something that is in a seed status. You simply add water. You let it sit for a couple of days. It will start germination. At a certain point, you stop the germination. You put it on a kiln, which is really drying it. And then you bring the level of moisture in the kernel down from a high percentage to a fairly low percentage. And this is when you hand it over to the brewer.
Gotcha.
If you look at it from that side, it's a very simple, natural process. If you look at it from the more scientific side, it's fairly complex because there are a lot of chemical processes that are biological and chemical processes which are happening within the grain. So it's a real fascinating process with so many different natural things that happen and that are extremely important for the brewer later when he does his beer. So in a way, it's an extremely technical process. So it's an easy product. If you look at it, we're just taking the grains from the field, put them in water, or steep them, as we call it. Then we dry them. Some of them we roast, some of them we don't. And then, of course, something that has not really anything to do with the malting, but which is coming afterwards, is the packaging, all the logistics, warehousing. So the nice thing about malting is that you can do it in a fully natural way. And that's the difference in Germany, that we have the purity law here, so that we have to comply with the regulations of the purity law, which means we can only use natural processes. It starts with the environment where we work in. We have to preserve the environment. We have to preserve little animals like mice and rats and stuff like this, which unfortunately happen, but we have to treat them nice and be kind to them. You know, there's a big difference in the EU between the plant protection, the chemicals that we can put into the ground. And that is also the reason why BESTMALZ is only using German barley. We're not using barley from other countries. So
gotcha.
not from France, not from Belgium, not from Denmark, because we feel very comfortable with the restrictions and the regulations that we have in Germany.
Yeah, and that purity law is Reinheitsgebot, right?
Reinheitsgebot, exactly.
Reinheitsgebot. Yeah. And that's been around for a couple hundred years, right? That's 400 or 500 years.
Like it's been since the 16th century.
That's wonderful.
So it's been around. It's been around forever. You know, originally the ingredients was before there was a lot of refrigeration. The lawmakers decided that you add certain things to the beer in the beer making process to keep it fresh, really. Before they had the possibilities to cool it and refrigerate it. And basically only using hops, yeast, water, and barley is what the Reinheitsgebot says. And of course, you know, since not all our export markets, we export around 70% of our products. So even though most of the export markets, or actually I think all of them, they don't have to comply with the Reinheitsgebot, but it's become a very quality control mechanism. So many of the customers in the US, for instance, they say, hey, we like this. We want to comply with the same rules because we think that our customers, our fans, they like the natural way how it is done. And it also, you know, there's a lot of things you can do. Some people ask us, why is your malt more expensive than other malts? And one of the reasons is that we don't use any accelerators in our process. So we let it sit. If it takes 6 days to for the germination, so we actually let it sit for 6 days. You can speed up this up to 4 days or even less. But this is not only done by additives, which we don't like, but it's also not, we believe it's not good for the quality. It just takes time, and we try to give it the time that we feel that the grains need.
Well, no, definitely. And I think that your product is amazing. In fact, I've become somewhat obsessed with Red X recently. And I did just did a smash beer, so single hop and single malt and single hop, just Red X with some Czech Saaz, to make a pseudo lager with Omega yeast Lutra. And so I kind of wanted to ask. It turned out really well, but I wanted to ask, you know, how Red X got started, because it feels very. I mean, it's obviously a base malt. You can use it for the whole bit, but it's got these such interesting qualities to it that just stand out. So, you know, how did it really come about?
It came about because before we had the Red X, there were customers coming and they said they wanted to have a red tinted beer. And so we advised them to mix this and that together and then do this and that. And so it was fairly complicated to get a good, nice red color in the beer. And so when that happened more often, we started asking ourselves, how can we provide a product which is more or less plug and play? Like you said, you can use it as a base malt, and which can just, even for people who don't brew that much and they're not as sophisticated, but they still want to have a very good beer in this red color, and also with a very good malty taste. And then Mitch Steele from Stone, he was actually the one who introduced it for Stone in a beer which was called the Stone Pataskala Red X IPA.
Mm-hmm.
This was in 2006, 15 or 16. And that went nationwide in the US in the distribution. And he added a lot of hops. Usually in Germany, they would not necessarily add a lot of hops to the Red X. But he did that. He mixed that with made a very hoppy, nice IPA,
Yep.
which we thought was great. And then more and more customers in the US, they really started liking it. So it became one of the top sellers, also because it's a unique product. I mean, there's other companies and our friends in Bamberg, who you may or may not know. If you don't, it's not important. I don't blame you. But if you do, they have a product which they claim is similar, but we feel still it's fairly unique.
Yeah. No, yeah, so. I've only ever had good experiences with it, and I absolutely love this one. Coming up on our time here, I just want to be really respectful of the time you've given me here. So, you know, my last question that we usually do for this is, it's kind of one of those fun ones, but if you could only drink one beer for the rest of your life, do you know what it would be?
Yes, I think it would be a good old Pilsen, traditional Pilsen beer. You know, it's in Germany, this is one of the most common beers. Obviously, there are many different tastes. We have in the US, also in Asia, we have a couple of brewers who've been extremely successful, also award-winning beers who tried the best Heidelberg Pilsen, which is a little bit brighter in color. And if you haven't tried that, you may want to try that. It's I mean, I've come at the CBC last year. I had people coming to me and they said this is the best Pilsen I've ever had in my whole life, with the best Heidelberg Pilsen. So the Pilsen, I think, still is a great beer because it's, you know, you can drink it any time of the year. Obviously, lager is more for you know, for certain periods of the year, and more the darker beers is for other periods. But no, that's a great way to end a day or start a day, whatever you want to do.
All right. Well, you know, thank you so much for taking this time, Dr. Göhler, to speak with us. I had a blast. And unless you had any questions for me, we can go ahead and sign off here.
No, I think it was a great conversation. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, or if any of your listeners have questions, feel free to send me an email.
Sounds good.
ag@bestmalz.de, and I'll try to respond.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
And bye-bye from Germany.
Bye from Chicago. All right, see you.
Bye.
Bye.